And it's been, well, a couple of months at least, not since last year, that we've gotten Unscrewed on the show with Jason Bryant at unscrewed.co.nz wine tastings. Welcome back to the show, Jason.
Thank you very much.
Nice
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. You've been on some travels overseas.
To England, Scotland, Wales and Canada.
Back to the homeland.
Yeah, back to the homeland. Went there for a wedding, and I really kind of had the chance to explore New Zealand wine over there as well. I checked out every kind of menu from every restaurant that we went to, every hotel, every bar that we visited, and
Lots of New Zealand wine? Not so much.
No, some quite odd New Zealand wine labels appearing over there. That in some kind of very odd locations as well, kind of a cafe that you wouldn't expect any New Zealand wine to be on because it just doesn't fit their price point. All of a sudden, there's a New Zealand wine on there. In this beautiful hotel in the middle of the Lake District, we saw a Morton estate, ironically, because that's whose wine we're tasting as well today, but also Three Stones Pinot, and it sat next to the rest of their very, very expensive wine, and so it's obviously held within high regard there. As an odd wine, New Zealand wine here, and on the wedding list, the breakfast wedding list, we had a Tin Pot Hut Sauvignon Blanc as well, and so, because I've been mainly focusing on Sauvignon Blanc because it is our kind of national grape, so to speak. So I thought that the whole of January, being summer down here, that we'd really focus on Sauvignon Blanc. So I'm doing that pretty much every day, including today, of wine tasting.
Right.
So,
and over there, you missed the big chill that is now, Europe has frozen in the past week, but you just missed that.
hundreds of people have died throughout Europe. Heathrow came to a standstill, and what we saw as we were taking off to leave to go to Vancouver, we saw the big snow clouds rolling in, and just as we were leaving, a friend of mine posted on Facebook or Twitter and said, "It's snowing here in Wimbledon," and so that was obviously pretty close to Heathrow, and we took off and landed in Vancouver, a bit wet. Next day, beautiful crystal blue sky. We had 2 days of rain in 30 days.
Not bad. And that's winter.
In January.
In the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, and in Edinburgh, middle of winter, I'm out in a T-shirt.
Wow.
Generally, you can't go in a T-shirt in summer.
What's going on? That's weird.
Yeah.
That's
so
strange.
it was beautiful. We had a couple of really, really kind of tough hoarfrosts that made the countryside look beautiful, nice and white and crisp, but a clear blue sky.
Sounds like you're on the trip, like Steve Coogan and friends.
It kind of was like that. It's quite tiring. You have to go and visit your friends and your family. Not your friends aren't tiring, but your family are really tiring. Friends are great. So we did, and we went to Hadrian's Wall, which was the first time. Even though I'm a Brit myself and partner's Scottish, we'd never visited Hadrian's Wall, and everybody we spoke to had never visited Hadrian's Wall.
I imagine that would be pretty busy.
Maybe one or two people.
Really?
Yeah, along the whole stretch that we drove along.
Wow.
And walked along, we saw maybe one or two people.
There you go.
If it is in America, it would be Disney theme parks.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. You'd have a ride that would go down.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be all of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, it can't compete with China's Great Wall of China, but it's of some significant historical
amazing
place in British history,
and
it's kind of almost neglected. There are a couple of little signs.
Well, part of it's all farmland and everything. It's all part of people's properties, right?
Yeah, but it does cut through, and a lot of it is protected. And there are a few kind of. There's a big Roman fort and villa.
But isn't it just like essentially just a whole bunch of rocks stacked together?
Yeah, pretty much.
Casually on the side of the road.
The earthworks to create this are enormous. Yeah, it spreads, I think, kind of 100 meters.
Yeah.
In width.
Yeah.
And then you've got this wall with all the earthworks that they did. And it's absolutely massive, and it runs from coast to coast. And some segments have been lost, and they've used the wall to kind of build other buildings and stuff like that. But a lot of it's still there.
Part of humans' obsessions with fences and walls.
Yeah. I mean, it may be... We were over there and witnessed kind of like the rise of the Scottish devolutionists and... how they want to kind of basically separate Scotland from England, and so we were over there for that, and so that wall may become a kind of popular again.
Very good. Well, you bought in a Morton estate.
Morton estate. it's part of my Sauvignon series. Everybody's talking about Riesling, and so I thought we'd do kind of a Sauvignon month. Seeing as it is supposed to be kind of one of our hottest months, February. So this is Morton Estate, and it's Stone Creek from the Tree Valley in Marlborough. Now they make wine from Hawke's Bay, make Sauvignon from Hawke's Bay, and this is a label I hadn't heard of under their brand as well. And Stone Creek, yeah.
Cheers.
2011. And now I see they're predicting that in Marlborough, because we've had such an iffy November, December, January, that kind of our crop loads may be down within Marlborough itself as well, which can only be good for the industry.
Probably,
It'll get things back in balance, but it'll be difficult. Well, they may kind of scrimp on quality to try to get everything in there, as well as they should be selective with kind of
because all that wet weather in that region, Marlborough, was pretty full on before Christmas and after Christmas.
Yeah, so hopefully, but it's always a shame for the smaller vineyards who can't afford to have another bad vintage or to have a glut of wine, and so it's going to place a lot more pressure on those guys again.
Yeah,
and that's my fear for the industry, that it will put additional pressure on the smaller guys. The bigger guys can carry it because they can ride it off and kind of drop, and they have growers. But the small vineyards who grow their own fruit, it's going to put additional financial cost and pressure on them to produce wine. So anyway, our tree, you typically get kind of the more green aspects, asparagus, peas, that kind of character. So you got a whiff of that. I've almost got a hint of passion fruit crushed with a bit of green pepper, capsicum.
Slightly peppery, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of a cross between the two.
A bit grassy?
Yeah.
Oh, an explosion.
But then it's got a bit of a hollowness in the mid-palate.
It's not very long. It's quite short.
It finishes short, But you do that front explosion of fruit, and kind of it's quite dry, and there's almost a grittiness to it as well. And then it just falls away pretty quickly, which is a bit of a shame. It's got 4.5 grams or 4.1 grams of residual sugar, so kind of edging up to kind of on the sweetness scale away from dry, which is typically kind of under 5. So we're getting up to the edge of kind of dry off dry.
What do they call it? Medium dry?
Off dry. But I really like the nose. But it falls a bit too short for me.
Does it need a little bit more time in the bottle?
Probably not. I would say that kind of now is...
Really?
Yeah, after the year, maybe 1 to 2 years.
Oh, it's tasty though.
It is very tasty, but it falls a bit short. Put it with a bit of shellfish, kind of also some cheeses and salad and everything like that, you'll be sweet.
Yeah. A little bit of fish and chips on the beach, as I enjoyed last night.
Yeah.
That was the first of the summer, actually.
Really?
This has been, so, yeah. I was just sitting on the beach with some fish and chips. That's a pleasure. That really right there.
It is.
Kiwi
Also,
sparkling
wine, which Morton Estate do, again, really well. Sparkling wine with fish and chips, because that kind of get this linear kind of acid that just rips through all the fattiness of, depends on which fish and chip shop you go to, but through the fattiness of the fish.
Yeah.
And makes it a pleasure to eat.
Just quickly, some thoughts, because I know social media and wine, the combination is very big for you.
Yep.
But the interesting news this week coming out of Sky and BBC, they've instructed their journalists to first file stories and check with their editors before they tweet anything.
Right, okay.
What do you think?
I think it's good and bad. I think that we need to verify stuff before it's put out there. I mean, we saw with the whole the George Bush election, that kind of Fox News broadcast that George Bush had won the election before it was verified, and in actual fact he didn't, but then it had to be conceded to him, so he did win. So I think on one hand it's really, really good that they did verify all their sources and make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. On the other hand, it stops that kind of spontaneity, which is generally what social media is all about.
And
so quick engagement, get it out there, bang, bang, bang.
And there's situations where there's breaking news events where it might take a while to file a story, but people really need to know what's going on.
So it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, you're losing all the spontaneity and the quick response to the issue. On the other hand, you are verifying sources and you're making the story more legitimate. So
that's a fair point.
Yeah, good and bad. Anyway,
unscrewed.co.nz and twitter.com/Jason_Bryant.
I'm surprised you still remember it.
Yeah, of course I do. We'll see you next week.